ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। अष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीकृष्णाय नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादिपाशतारिणे कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Verse 25. Putrashisha Shruti Sukha Rugatrushnirupaha Kvedam Kalevaram Ashesha Rujam Virohaha निर्विद्यते न तु जनो यदपीति विद्वान् कामानलं मधुलवैः शमयन् दुरापैः. Material world, every living entity desires some future happiness, which is exactly like a mirage in the desert. Where is the water in the desert? Or in other words, where is happiness in this material world? And for this body, what is its value? It is merely a source of various diseases. The so-called philosophers, scientists, and politicians know this very well, but nonetheless, they aspire for temporary happiness. Happiness is very difficult to obtain, but because they are unable to control their senses, they run after the so-called happiness of material world and never come to the right conclusion. So specifically talking about so-called philosophers, scientists, politicians, people who are in knowledge, or we can say people who are knowledgeable, who are considered knowledgeable, or powerful, or important. They know, they're supposed to know that the body is just source of various diseases and there's no real happiness in this world. But still, because they're unable to control their senses, they run after this so-called happiness and never come to the right conclusion. There's a song in the Bengali language which states, I constructed this home for happiness, but unfortunately there was a fire and everything has now been burned to ashes. Illustrates the nature of material happiness. Everyone knows it. But nonetheless, one plans to hear or think something very pleasing, isn't it? Prabhupada writes, such accurate statements. You can't escape. Everyone knows it, but nonetheless, one plans to hear or think something very pleasing, meaning materially pleasing. Unfortunately, all of one's plans are annihilated in due course of time. There are many politicians who planned empire, supremacy, and control of the world, but in due time, all their plans and empires, and even the politicians themselves, were vanquished. Everyone should take lessons from Prahlada Maharaj about how we are engaged in so-called temporary happiness through bodily exercises for sense enjoyment. All of us repeatedly make plans which are all repeatedly frustrated there. One should stop such plan making. Very, very important statement. All of us repeatedly make plans um, which are all repeatedly frustrated. We repeatedly make plans and they repeatedly get frustrated. But still we continue to make plans. So Upad is saying one should stop plan making. We discussed this some time back. Where Prabhupada writes, any amount of plan making give does not satisfy the soul. And our mind is always in planning mode. Unless we are due to some reason emotionally down when we will be lamenting. Otherwise, mostly it is with the hope of a better tomorrow, something pleasing, some temporary happiness. And we are plan making. We are in this process of plan making. Okay, I want to get this happiness, so I should do this, that. So we should stop plan making. People will ask then, oh, then what will happen to our life? How will things, if things have to happen, then we have to think, we have to do what will happen to our future. It is already destined. So we don't have to worry too much. So if you want to fix our mind on Krishna, we have to depend on Krishna and we have to stop this uh, atheistic plan making. It's atheistic because actually it doesn't believe in presence of Supreme Lord, isn't it? And his laws. So just stop plan making. So whenever your mind goes into this, plan making business, stop it. Stop plan making. It's just all the time actually. It depends. Males maybe, do more plan making. Men maybe. You should just stop this plan making. One cannot stop a blazing fire by constantly pouring ghee upon it. One cannot satisfy oneself for sense enjoyment. The blazing fire is Mahadava, the fire of material existence. Forest fire occurs automatically without endeavor. We want to be happy in the material world, but this will never be possible. We shall simply increase the blazing fire of desires. Mhm. We want to be happy in the material world, but this will never be possible. But we'll simply keep increasing our desires. Our desires cannot be satisfied by illusory thoughts and plans. Rather, we have to follow the instructions of the Lord to surrender. Then we shall be happy. Otherwise, in the name of happiness, we shall continue to suffer miserable conditions. So, Prabhupada is saying the only way to be happy is to surrender to Krishna. Now, whatever our tiny endeavors to make ourselves materially happy with our illusory thoughts and plans is not going to help us. So, though our desires might increase continuously, but they'll not succeed. So we're not going to be happy. The only way to be happy is to surrender to. And very, very important to improve the quality of our chanting is to stop this plan making. To begin with, we can reduce plan making. At least don't make plans on trivial matters. Just leave it. Just leave it to Krishna. And then we can go on to, more serious matters, stopping plan making on more serious matters. Because it's very difficult. We cannot even imagine how can I just stop thinking? Can I just stop making plans? So it's difficult for us right now. So we can start with some small baby steps, small insignificant things. Let's not get too worked up and to keep thinking about it. Then we can gradually do that for bigger plans. क्वाहं रजप्रभव ईशतमोऽधिकेऽस्मिन् जातः क्व तवानुकम्पा न ब्रह्मणो न तु भवस्य न वैरमाया यन्मेऽर्पितः शिरसि पद्मकरः प्रसादः. O my Lord, O Supreme, because I was born in a family full of the hellish material qualities of passion and ignorance, what is my position? What is to be said of your causeless mercy, which was never offered even to Lord Brahma, Shiva, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi? What is that mercy? You never put your lotus hand upon their heads, but you put it upon me. Hmm. So Prahlad is saying, what is my position? I was born in, hellish, demoniac family with uh, full of hellish qualities, material qualities of passion and ignorance. So this passion and ignorance, hellish. But he's saying, what is my position? But still you have shown me more mercy, causeless mercy. Who am I? I'm nobody, but still you put your hand, lotus hand on my head, which you have not done to Lord Brahma, Shiva, or Goddess. Prahlada, I was surprised at the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord, for although Prahlada was born in a demoniac family, and although the Lord had never before placed his lotus hand on the head of Brahma, Shiva, or Goddess of Fortune, his constant companion, Lord Narasimha Dev, kindly placed his hand on the head of Prahlada. This is the meaning of causeless mercy. The causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord may be bestowed upon anyone, regardless of his position in this material world. Everyone is eligible to worship the Supreme Lord of his material position. Nam cha yo vyabhicharen raghunantam brahmabhuvaya. Come to the stage of Brahmabhuta. Anyone who engages in continuous devotion service to the Lord is situated in the spiritual world and has nothing to do with the material quality. Continuous devotional service. What he's saying is already situated in the spiritual world, nothing to do with the material quality. Mm. Because Prahlada was situated on the spiritual platform, he had nothing to do with his body, which had been born of the modes of passion and ignorance. The symptoms of passion and ignorance are described in Srimad Bhagavatam as lust and hankering. Mm. Prahlada, being a great devotee, thought the body born of his father to be born of passion and ignorance. But because Prahlada was fully engaged in the service of the Lord, his body did not belong to the material world. Mm. So we should understand this. Passion and ignorance are hellish qualities, and the symptoms of passion and ignorance are lust and hankering. So, to the extent we have lust and hankering, to that extent we are conditioned by passion and ignorance. And we have to get over this because if we have to come to goodness, which is absolutely required to make progress in devotion, we have to get over this passion and ignorance, which means that get over this lust and hankering. We can get over lust and hankering by one knowledge that is all anyway worthless, connected with this body and it's not real enjoyment, etc. And then by prayers, because after certain limit, our knowledge fails to work because of our deep-rooted, uh, conditioning. So then we have to pray, we have to serve great Vaishnavas, and then hope to come out of this lust and hankering. Mm. And because Prahlada was fully engaged in the service of the Lord, his body did not belong to the material world. So fully engaged. Pure Vaishnava's body is spiritualized even in this life. So who talking about exalted Vaishnavas? So because their body is already spiritualized. For example, when iron is put into fire, it becomes red hot and is no longer iron but fire. So the iron actually becomes fire. Similarly, the so-called material bodies of devotees who fully engage in devotional service of the Lord, being constantly in the fire of spiritual life, have nothing to do with matter but are spiritualized. Of course, this takes time. The spiritualization takes time. But the important thing is that we have to fully engage in devotional service. Meaning, again, this is a very nice example. Iron is put into fire, it becomes red hot. Now, but if suppose say you take it out, put it for 10 minutes, take it out. Then again, after some time, put it back. What will happen? It will never come to the state of becoming red hot. Or even if it does after a long time. But if the iron has to become red hot and almost become like fire, it has to be constantly, continuously in the fire. So if we want to be spiritualized 100%, we have to be constantly in the fire of spiritual life, fully engaged in devotional service. Then our body will be spiritualized, which is what is the situation with all great devotees, great Vaishnavas. Whatever we might be seeing as their external suffering, they are not suffering because they are already on this spiritual platform, and they have no sense of their material existence. Srila Madhvacharya remarks that the goddess of fortune, the mother of the universe, could not get mercy similar to that which was offered to Prahlada. For although the goddess is always a constant companion of the Supreme Lord, the Lord is more inclined to his devotees. Okay. She's a wife. She's a wife, but she's also a devotee, but she's a wife. But the Lord is more inclined to his other devotees. In other words, devotional service is so great that when it is offered even by those born in low families, the Lord accepts it as being more valuable than the service offered by goddess of fortune. So she has a special position. Though she is a devotee, she has a special position. And here Prabhupada is saying, devotees born even in low families, their Lord accepts their service as more valuable than service offered by goddess of fortune. Lord Brahma, Indra, and other demigods living in the upper planetary systems are situated in a different spirit of consciousness. Therefore, they are sometimes troubled by demons. But a devotee, even if situated in the lower planets, enjoys life in Krishna consciousness under any circumstances. Paratasvata karmataha, as he acts himself, as he is instructed by others, or as he performs his material activities, enjoys life in every aspect, in every respect. In this regard, Madhvacharya quotes Brahmatharka. Brahma Brahmi Vindradi Trikatat Stutaha तदन्ये च क्रमादेव सदा मुक्तौ स्मृतावपि हरिभक्तौ च तज्ज्ञाने सुखे च नियमेन तु परतः स्वतः कर्मतो वा न कथञ्चित् तदन्यथा. So this parata swata karmato va. So in all situations, he is happy. He is happy in Krishna consciousness. नैषा परावरमतिर्भवतो ननु स्याज् जन्तोर्यथात्मसुहृदो जगतस्तथापि हम सेवया सुरतरोरिव ते प्रसादः सेवानुरूपमुदयो न परावर्तत्वम्. Unlike an ordinary living being, my Lord, you do not discriminate between friends and enemies, favorable and unfavorable. For you, there is no conception of higher and lower. Nonetheless, you offer your benedictions according to the level of one's service. Exactly as a desire tree delivers fruits according to one's desires and makes no distinction between the lower and the higher. Bhagavad Gita Lord says, as one surrenders to me, I reward him accordingly. So this is very, very important. So there's no external factor here. The factor is our surrender. To the extent of our surrender, to that extent, Krishna will reciprocate with us. To the extent of our surrender, to the extent of our faith in him, to the extent of our desire to serve him, he will reciprocate accordingly. According to the service the living entity renders, he automatically receives benedictions from Krishna. Does not make distinctions, thinking here is a person in an intimate relationship with me, here is a person I dislike. Now, as in Lord doesn't have any like and dislike. Just depends on the extent of our surrender. Krishna advises everyone to surrender. One's relationship with the Supreme Lord is in proportion to that surrender and the service one renders unto the Lord. So again, this surrender, we should understand what is the surrender. The two aspects of surrender. One is the way we do our sadhana and the way we live life. Both. Anukulisa sankalpa pratikulisa varjanam. So giving up unfavorable, doing favorable things. That is the way we live life. Rakshishite iti vishwaso is our faith in Krishna. Gopratve varnam tata. Again, knowing our position as servant and Krishna's position as maintainer. Atmanikshepa. Then putting ourselves at his lotus with humility. So both internal and external states of surrender And our service. What is the result of surrender? The result of surrender is a sincere, loving service to Krishna. Mm. So yeah, uh, we celebrated Gaura Purnima last week in our centers, and devotees were also they rendered loving service to Krishna. It's not forced. Nobody was told that you have to do this, you have to do that. Nothing. Everybody just did do whatever is their love for Lord based on their surrender. Everybody did services. There are also devotees who came for just half an hour. There were devotees who came for like entire time, and that all depends on individual surrender, and that surrender translates into service. If what is the point in reading Shastra, reading Prabhupada's purport, etc., is that the devotion has to translate into service. Uh, and there are some devotees who come exactly at prasadam time, not just some newcomers, not somebody new to Krishna consciousness. There are devotees who don't feel like doing any service to Krishna. They come just to honor prasadam. Very strange. Uh, why would somebody do that? Why would a devotee not want to serve? Strange, So which basically means that they don't have proper shavanam. And they're not hearing, they're not reading Prabhupada's books properly. Thus, throughout the entire world, higher or lower positions of the living entities are selected by the living entities themselves. If one is inclined to dictate that the Lord grants something, one receives benedictions according to his desires. If one wants to be elevated to the higher planetary systems, the heavenly planets, he can be promoted to the place he desires. And if one wants to remain a hog or a pig, God fulfills that there also. But of course, this doesn't happen overnight. But it takes time. We have to accumulate that punya, etc., etc. Therefore, one's position is determined by one's desires. So all depends on our desires. Lord is not responsible for the higher or lower grades of our existence. Some want to go to heavenly planet, some want to go to Pitruloka, some want to remain on earth. But if one is interested in returning home, he can be promoted there also. So it has to start with desire, not necessarily qualification. We don't have to we don't have to desire. We don't desire based on our qualification, isn't it? We just want to buy something, we just want to buy it. Are we thinking, am I qualified to have the money? No, we just desire. Similarly, spiritual life is also about this desire. And the more intense the desire, the better for the individual. Hmm. So according to that desire, we will achieve our destination. Krishna reciprocates accordingly. He does not discriminate. Hmm. So in any condition, we should worship the Supreme Lord. Whether somebody has desires, no desires, there's no other option to try and worship the Lord according to one's position. Whether as a devotee, karmi, or gnani, whatever one wants, one can get if one fully engages in the service of the Lord. Of course, Prabhupada is not writing this for devotees who are already on the path. This is for neophyte devotees who just come into Krishna consciousness, or karmi or gnanis who are reading this and they still have material desires. They say, yeah, come. Devotees, we have to slowly move from this neophyte Mishra devotional stage to pure devotion, not desiring anything but just pleasure of Krishna. And it's also, and as devotees make progress in Krishna consciousness, they'll have also specific desires to serve the Lord. I want to serve the Lord in this way, right? I want to serve the Lord in this rasa. Very specific. And when that becomes specific, very specific, so specific, that it becomes a greed of the devotee, then the devotee has moved into Raganuga stage. Again, for all this to happen, what is required is Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, intense devotion. And these things have to happen. Our desires, we have to develop spiritual desires. Desires have to intensify. Desires have to become more focused or more specific. Our desire to serve Krishna has to get like this. This has to happen. एवं जनम निपतितं प्रभवाहि कूपे कामाभिकाममनुयः प्रपतन् प्रसंगात् कृत्वात्मसात् सुरर्षिणा भगवन् गृहीतः सोऽहं कथं नु विसृजे तव भृत्य सेवाम्. Lord, O Supreme Law, Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes. Absolutely not. Prahlad is just talking about us, following the general populace. But your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? So yeah, at that time, before he was uh, instructed by Narada Muni, yeah, like we heard about the life in his previous life. He was born of Brahmana called Vishnu Sarma, and his name was Vasudeva, and he associated with a prostitute, etc. So yeah, he was actually gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes. But Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple. So we have to all remember those who are initiated. Our respective spiritual masters have kindly accepted us as disciples and instructed us also how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, our first duty is to serve him. As will be seen in later verses, even though Prahlada was directly offered all the benedictions he might have desired, he refused to accept such offerings from the Supreme Lord. On the contrary, he asked the Lord to engage him in the service of his servant Narada Muni. Dasa, 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 anudasa. This is the symptom of a pure devotee. One should serve the spiritual master first. It is not that one should bypass the spiritual master and desire to serve the Supreme Lord. It is not possible. It's just not possible. Tandere charana sevi bhakta sanevas janame hoye abhilash Narottam Das Thakur is saying. That we should have the desire to serve the spiritual master janame, life after life. Gopi Bhartur Padakamaloy or Dasa Dasa Anudasa. We cannot expect, we should not desire to become a direct servant of the Lord. This is the process for approaching the Supreme Lord. The first service should be rendered to the spiritual master so that by his mercy one can approach the Supreme Person of Godhead to render service. While teaching Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. One can achieve seat of devotional service by the mercy of the Guru, the spiritual master, and then by the mercy of Krishna. This is the secret of success. First, one should try to please the spiritual master. Then one should attempt to please the Supreme Lord. Chakravarti Thakur also says, Yes, Prasada, Bhagavad Prasado. One should not attempt to please the Supreme Lord by concoction, meaning by our own ways. No, we have to follow the ways of our Guru. One must first be prepared to serve the spiritual master, and when one is qualified, is automatically offered the platform of direct service. But this happens at perfection. Even at perfection, we'll always be looking for our spiritual authority. We'll be thinking, oh, what will my guru's position be? What service is my guru doing? Can I assist the guru in Goloka? That is the guaranteed position of going back to Krishna. Therefore, Prahlada proposed that he engage in the service of Narada Muni. He never proposed that he engage directly in the service of the Lord. This is the right conclusion. Therefore, he said, Soham katham nu visruje tava bhritya sevam. How can I give up the service of my spiritual master? This word means such a way that I am now able to see you face to face. Allah prayed to the Lord that he might continue to engage in the service of his spiritual master Narada. It is very, very important. Which is why even though technically we don't need initiation to achieve perfection, but because Kali Yuga we are fallen souls, we need to surrender to authority. We need to surrender to Guru. Serve. Guru in a way that we can please our Guru. And then this is very important. When one is qualified, is automatically offered the platform, direct service. Of course, even there, direct service doesn't necessarily mean that but we will be engaged in direct service of the Lord by Adasa, Dasa, Dasa, Anudasa. So, somebody, some other devotee who is the devotee of another devotee, who is a devotee of another devotee, who is a direct devotee of Krishna, will engage us in direct service of Krishna. Hmm. That is there. But we can't approach Krishna directly saying that give me direct service. So, for which the transparent via media is the Guru. So, it's very, very important that we can't this which is the safest path. Like I said, Guru will be in the spiritual world, uh, and we should just aspire to serve Guru also in the spiritual world. Then we will be accepted because Guru will say, okay, I want him for my service. Right? I want him to help me out in my service to the Lord. He might think in my service to my Guru, and so on and so. Right. So of course, it's not necessary that um, that, for example, somebody might be in the mood of Sakha. A disciple can be in the mood of Gopi. There is no problem, issue with that. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this. So we should not think that, oh, no, no, maybe my guru is not in the same bhava as me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So then, the guru will put us onto somebody else in the spiritual world. But we will still have authority. That much we have to be clear, and we should be prepared to serve. This is why surrender to Guru is very, very instrumental in bringing us to that form of surrender. Then that's how that dasa, 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 anudasa will happen. Mm. Um, so yasya prasadat bhagavad prasadam, remember. प्राणरक्षणमन् अनन्तपितुर्वधश्च मन्ये स्वभृत्य ऋषिवाक्यमृतं विधातुं खड्गं प्रगृह्य यदवोचद् असद्विदित्सुस् त्वामीश्वरो मदपरो वतु संहरामि. My Lord, O unlimited reservoir of transcendental quality, who killed my father, Hiranyakashipu, and saved me from his sword. He had said very angrily, if there is any supreme controller other than me, let him save you. I shall now sever your head from your body. Therefore, I think that both in saving me and in killing him, you acted just to prove the true words of your devotee. There is no other cause. Supreme Lord is undoubtedly equal to everyone. He has no friend and no enemy. But as one desires benefits from the Lord, uh, the Lord is very pleased to award them. Lower and higher positions of different living entities are due to their desires. But the Lord, being equal to all, fulfills everyone's desire. The killing of Hiranyakashipu and saving of Prahlad also strictly followed this law of the Supreme Controller's activities. And Prahlada's mother, Kayadu, was under the protection of Narada, prayed for the protection of her son from the enemy. And Narada Muni gave assurance that Prahlada would always be saved from the enemy's hands. And in some sense, his mother only, or Hiranyakashipu's wife only protected her son against her husband, from her husband. That's when Hiranyakashipu was going to kill Prahlada, the Lord saved Prahlada to fulfill his promise. Konte pratitani name bhakta pranashyati. True, 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 the words of Narada. Narada had said, Tathastu, Kayadu. The Lord can fulfill many purposes through one action. Thus, the killing of Hiranyakashipu and the saving of Prahlada were enacted simultaneously. Through the truthfulness of the Lord's devotee and the fidelity of the Lord himself to his own purpose. The Lord acts only to satisfy the desires of his devotees. Otherwise, he has nothing to do. So one Brahma's words and the other is Narada Muni's words. As confirmed in the Vedic language, na tasya karyam karanam ta vidyate. Lord has nothing to do personally. Everything is done parasa shaktir vividaiva shvete by his different potencies. God has multifarious energies through which everything is done. Thus, when he personally does something, it is only to satisfy his devotee. See, his multifarious energies do all his other activities. Everything else is done. But when he personally does something, the only reason is to satisfy his devotee. Amazing. God is known as Bhaktavattala because he very much favors his devoted servant. Very much favors. Personally does something, it is only to satisfy his devotee. Please remember these words. Very much favors his devoted servant. So, what better destination to aspire for? To become a devoted servant of Krishna. For what? For nothing else, just to be able to experience his love. Krishna's love is so amazing. No, we need to be qualified to be a recipient of that love. And how can we become a recipient of that love? When we show that same kind of love to Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate. This is the ultimate stage of happiness, Jiva. Intrinsic stage, intrinsic happiness, being part and parcel of and serving him with love. Then the Jiva will experience that reciprocal love, which is going to make him happy. Okay, I'll stop. Are there any questions? Anything? Okay. Nothing else, then we can conclude. Bhagavatam ki jai, jai Prabhupada ki jai. Ancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa Ananta Koti Vaishnav. Hare Krishna.